Jovan, Buha! Buha!
Yo, yo, I'm Jovan Buha, NBA reporter for Buha's Block, and welcome to another live show. The Lakers won 110-101 over the New Orleans Pelicans tonight, their third straight win. Order was restored in the clutch. The Lakers were just 1-3 in their past four clutch games. They improved to 37-24, remain number 6 in the West, but are only a half game back of Denver with a critical matchup looming on Thursday. One of the biggest games of the season up to this point, and going to be one of the biggest games down the stretch of the season, just with LA jockeying for position with Denver. Tied in the loss column, one game back in the win column. And I think Denver's not been playing that well lately. Lakers are starting to perk up a bit. So I think a gettable game for LA on Thursday, and a nice measuring stick game for them, just because they obviously have had an easier pocket of the schedule recently. But LA gets the win. They were down 8 with 7 minutes left. It looked like they had been smacked in the face with a dose of reality after a couple of easy wire-to-wire wins over the depleted Warriors and the depleted Kings, but they didn't need to be depleted for LA to blow them out. But after a couple of easier games, LA faced a team that, while their record is what it is, they had been playing better lately. This is a team that has a certain amount of talent with Zion Williamson and Trey Murphy and Sadiq Bey, Herb Jones, etc. They'd won 6 of 9 and 4 of 6 going into this game. So they had been playing well. They've been playing better than the Lakers over their last 9 games, at least from a record perspective. So this was a team coming in that was young, hungry, with some momentum. They are not tanking because they owe their pick to Atlanta, so they had something to play for. They're trying to close the season with some momentum. The guys are fighting for spots in the future of the Pelicans. So this was a hungry, young, athletic team that came in and gave the Lakers their best shot for the first 41 minutes of this game, and then they completely collapsed on the stretch, though the Lakers deserve a lot of credit defensively. But shout out to the chat, shout out to the late night gang. Appreciate you all. One quick programming note with tonight. I'm going to be doing the Rosillo show early in the morning. So I am going to be going a little bit shorter tonight, keeping it around an hour to an hour 15, because I still got to edit and upload and do different things, post show. So I'm going to try to end on the earlier side. That means I'll go for 5 hours, because that's what I tend to do. But I just wanted to let you guys know, excited about that show in the morning. So Buha's big picture. I mentioned it at the top, but order was restored in the clutch. So the Lakers were just 1-3 over their past 4 clutch games. If you look at those games, that is the OKC loss, that is the Clippers win, and then that is the Orlando and Phoenix wins. So technically, they could have won any of those games, but they also could have lost that Clippers game. Nick Batum gets a wide open 3 off of the steal, could have sent that game into overtime. And with how the game was trending, the Lakers potentially lose that. So could have gone 0-4, could have gone 2-2, 3-1, whatever. They've gone 1-3 over these past 4 games. But after the 15-2 start in the clutch, prior to that point, LA had started to be more vulnerable and had come back down to earth in the clutch, and just not had the same sheen, we'll say, that they had earlier in the season. But tonight, they're down 8 with just over 7 minutes left. They call a timeout. They come out of that break, and they sub in Jackson Hayes for DeAndre Ayton, which I think was the right move, as Jackson was huge down the stretch of this game. First play, they blitz it. Luka, Jackson Hayes runs hard to the rim, gets a wide open dunk. Next play, Austin Reeves, who had a brutal first 3 quarters to this game, maybe his worst three-quarter stretch of the season, or in that conversation. The ball gets swung to him in the corner. He hits a big three. Then Jackson gets a big stop on Zion. And I forgot, was that when Luka scored, or LeBron? I forgot who scored after that play, but like it was like a bang, bang, bang sequence. I think it might have been Luka, where the Lakers just all of a sudden got back into. I mean, I could just pull it up here on the play-by-play, but Lakers go from like down 8 to right back in the game. And I really, as an aside here, I really do not like the new ESPN play-by-play. It is completely made it much tougher. So let's see here. It was LeBron. Jackson blocked Zion. LeBron went to the free throw line. Okay, so LeBron missed both free throws, and then I remember Austin missed the layup after that. But like it was a little bit of a rough stretch there. But it was still the process of LA turning the fourth quarter around. Ultimately closed this game on a 24-7 run, and believe they had 7 blocks in the fourth quarter. Finished the game with a season high 12 blocks, and just some really big plays from the entire group. You had LeBron, who almost single-handedly swung the game. It basically did single-handedly swing the game in the first half with that 8-0 personal run, and then 9 of 11 to start the second quarter. That gave the Lakers the lead there for a while before they tricked it away in the third quarter. But he had some big plays in the fourth. Jackson Hayes, as I mentioned, had the dunk, had a tip out, had some key stops against Zion, and just it took one on the chin from him, and just some really big defensive plays from Hayes. Marcus Smart was everywhere. I mean, I think about that play that he had, the 2-on-1 that led to the LeBron dunk. But even after that, he hits the 3 in the corner, which easily could have been a 4-point play. He also had some big strips and defensive plays. Austin had some big rebounds and strips, also hit a couple of threes in the fourth. And then Luka had a post up against DeJounte Murray that he got fouled on, had another post up he scored on, hit the 3 to take it from 7 to 10 and ice the game with about a minute left. So all around, like just an all around solid effort from the closing group, which ended up being the starters with Jackson in place of DA. For the record, the group that I think should be the starting lineup moving forward. But just everyone made big plays. New Orleans, you guys know I try to keep it as real as possible. New Orleans had some of the most boneheaded turnovers and shot attempts tonight that like the collective decision making, I would say, was subpar to say the least. But the Lakers capitalized on it. The Lakers, Zion was bulldozed. I mean, Zion almost injured half of the rotation. He had the knee bump with Luka, the elbow into he had multiple elbows into Jackson. The elbow into Austin's, or the swipe into Austin's arm, which hit his funny bone, and then Austin could barely move his hand. Like Zion nearly took out half the rotation tonight. But I mean, I would just say I don't want to like take too much from this game or from that stretch in a positive sense, other than like the Lakers had been a little shaky in crunch time lately, and if this was like a boxing match, this would have been like they were starting to bleed a bit in the later rounds. And tonight was about showing that like when they should not have been in the situation of being down 8 to this team with 7 minutes left. And one of my takeaways is going to be some of the bad habits that reemerge in this game. Like through the first 41 minutes, this looked a lot like the pre-All-Star break Lakers that had been a very frustrating watch with the turnovers and the transition defense, the half-court defense. Like they were a mess for some key, big stretches of this game, but they rallied in the fourth when they needed to. They had an incredible close to the game. They got the win, and they now go into Denver on a 3-game win streak. In terms of notable performers, I'm gonna lump Luka, Austin, and LeBron together for one moment. All 3 of them had 5+ turnovers. Austin and LeBron had 5. Luka had 7. So outside of the turnovers and the passing tonight, I thought, Austin had a rough 3 quarters. So let's put Austin to the side for a second. But like Luka and LeBron, Luka goes 10 for 22, 3 for 10 on threes. So he continues to yo-yo in terms of his efficiency inside the arc versus outside the arc. But I thought overall, outside of the turnovers, Luka was really good tonight. 27, 10, and 7, a block, but also had the 7 turnovers and struggled from deep. I didn't, especially early, I didn't love some of the shot selection, some of the threes he took in the first quarter. But aside from that and the turnovers, which is a giant caveat that I will be touching on more in one of my takeaways, like a solid game from Luka. And it's just status quo at this point for him. LeBron, 21, 7 and 7, 2 blocks, 8 for 12 shooting, 1 for 5 on threes. So after a couple of impressive shooting performances against the Kings and Warriors from deep, LeBron struggled again tonight, also struggled at the free throw line, 4 for 8. Had the 5 turnovers. So I think like a solid game from LeBron in really, again, like it's tough to quantify like the impact that he had to start that second quarter, but the Lakers were trending in the wrong direction. They had a really disappointing second half of the first quarter. They were kind of playing lifeless. And I would even argue that LeBron had a bit of this to start the fourth quarter as well. Like I think, LA entered the fourth quarter down and LeBron helped spark some momentum. Now, New Orleans did respond with their own run to get it to 8 with 7 minutes left. But like LeBron in a couple of stretches in kind of similar parts of each half, right? Like that early second quarter, early fourth quarter, I thought he was vital. And then Austin, brutal. I think he went 0 for 7 in the first half, if I'm not mistaken. So 4 for 8 in the second half. Much better second half. Did get to the free throw line a couple times in the first half. 5 for 5 overall at the free throw line. 2 for 7 on threes. 8 rebounds. So he was actually tied with DeAndre Ayton for second on the team in rebounds behind Luka. So he did contribute in that regard, but 3 assists to 5 turnovers. That is bad. 2 steals and 2 blocks, which that was solid. That was second on the team in stocks behind Marcus Smart, who had 7. But Austin has been now in an extended slump, basically coming out of the All-Star break. You could argue even before the All-Star break. Since he returned, really, he has not been the same player outside of that Philly game where he was making everything and led that second half comeback. So the Lakers, like, I guess if you want to fish for some optimism here, he took 15 shots. I know people have been monitoring Austin shot attempts versus LeBron shot attempts. Austin took 3 more shots than LeBron tonight. Though LeBron took 3 more free throws. So I don't know the usage off the top of my head. I would assume it was relatively close. LeBron also had 7 assists to Austin's 3. But in terms of like Austin's role, he was more involved in the offense tonight. But he did struggle against Herb Jones and Trey Murphy and some of McGowan's and just some of the length and athleticism. And this continues to be a trend with Austin where he has just not been able to find his footing post injury. Then Marcus Smart, we talk about single game plus minus and sometimes how it's not always reflective. Sometimes it is. I think that there always is some level of context and nuance. But I find it no surprise that Marcus Smart led the starters in plus minus tonight. The other 4 starters ranged from a -7 in DeAndre Ayton to a +3 in LeBron. So they were all within that range. Marcus Smart, Lakers were +13 in his 30 minutes tonight. Hit a huge shot down the stretch, which again could have been a 4-point play. But 10 points, 3 rebounds, 7 assists. Like the playmaking tonight, he had that one. I think it was the only 3. It was the only 3 LeBron hit where Marcus is in the right corner, right in front of the Lakers bench, and the Pelicans are cheating over, I believe, toward DA. LeBron is in the left corner, wide open. Marcus just rifles an overhead pass to him, and LeBron cashes the wide open corner 3 for his only 3 of the game. So like Marcus's playmaking, I think that's been. Like he is far and away he's the 4th best passer on the team, and it's not really close. I do think there's a gap between him and Austin, though Austin has not been passing and playmaking at his normal level lately. But like between Marcus and anyone else, Marcus is clearly the fourth best passer and playmaker on the team. But for me, the thing tonight was the stocks, 4 steals, 3 blocks. He was everywhere defensively, and he just was blowing up play after play. I think the play of the game was the 2-on-1 situation that he was in, where Saddiq Bey botched it and should have just taken the shot, tried to force a pass through Marcus. Marcus steals it, gets it to LeBron in transition. And so Marcus was awesome tonight, and also 0 turnovers. I will note, like 3 for 9. Shot selection can always typically be better with Marcus, but 0 turnovers tonight to go with 7 assists. I mean, that is as good as it realistically gets. DA, mixed bag tonight for DA. 13 points, 8 rebounds. I liked 6 for 8 from the field. I liked some of his finishes. Now he did have a couple turnovers, both of the just fumbling the ball, and his ball security has been an issue lately in terms of catching passes, not being stripped. He's had once or twice every game now he is fumbling a ball, or like a ball is in his vicinity that he should be grabbing and securing, and he's just losing it. So there needs to be a little bit more focus there. My thing with him, which continues to be my biggest gripe with him, like, the rebound, like I think there were things I liked. I liked some of the offensive process tonight, and I think that has like shown some signs of life again with him lately. The defense was terrible tonight with him, and that's just something that I like several. I mean, there was one play he's supposed to be guarding Saddiq Bey. Remember that sideline out of bounds play early in the game where he's guarding Saddiq Bey, and they might have been in zone, but even then, like, they leave Saddiq Bey in sort of the dunker spot, and like that's DA's rotation because Saddiq was already past Luka. He doesn't rotate over. Saddiq Bey gets a wide open dunk. Zion, you saw what Zion was doing before Jackson Hayes came in versus what Zion was doing after Jackson Hayes came in. Totally different. Like, his ability to mirror Zion's drives and footwork and stay with him, and even took some blows everywhere basically from Zion, and it stuck with it. DA was a lot of like just his angles and his timing and like reading situations defensively. I just think has really regressed from where it was early in the season. And to me, again, like, we can look at plus minus and you can weigh it more or less certain games. For me, the fact that he had the worst plus minus tonight, -7 in 25 minutes, and then you can directly contrast that with Jackson because the Lakers only played 2 centers tonight, and didn't go small. It was only DA and Jackson tonight. Conversely, Jackson, Lakers are plus 16, tied for a team best mark in his 23 minutes. So I think DA continues to put up these numbers, but I think he definitely gave up. I mean, he made 6 shots. He definitely gave up more than 6 field goal attempts at the rim tonight. And I think the defense continues to be concerning. Off the bench, I think we got to start with Jackson Hayes, who closed the game strong, 8 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist in 23 minutes, 3 for 4. Just continues to be, I think the energy, the violence with which he attacks the rim in rim runs, I think is an important part of the Lakers offense. 4 offensive rebounds, and really punish them against some of their less athletic, like the Derek Queen, DeAndre Jordan lineups. But the 2 blocks, I believe both were in the fourth quarter against Zion Williamson. And I thought Jackson did a wonderful job defensively, and has continued to close games more and more recently. And I think has just been straight up the Lakers' best center over the past 2 months. And I will continue to beat that drum as long as it's true. Luke Kennard, 9 points in his 21 minutes. Hit a couple threes. I mean, it just feels like anytime he's open from 3, missed one late and got some clutch time minutes. It was in there for LeBron, giving him a breather. But 2 rebounds and an assist, like, solid game from Luke. I thought he got a tech. That'll be something I touch on in the bad habits, but it was I'll give Luke a pass on the tech. I like to see Luke get fired up. It was nice to see. Then Jake and Rui both had their minutes slashed, and I'll touch on some rotation stuff was one of the takeaways. But Rui, 2 points, 2 rebounds in 19 minutes, went 0 for 4, all on threes. Just has been quiet lately. You look at his last 5 games, 4 of those have been single digits. 3 of those have been, I mean, now there's some nuance here because he missed the Golden State game. Sacramento game was a blowout, so he played a little bit less. But even if we extend this out, it's like the Orlando game, the Boston game, the Clippers game, had a nice game against Dallas shooting the ball, but then had the San Antonio game. So like Rui's just been in a little bit of a rut himself offensively and has not been quite the same player lately. And then I thought Jake was fine in his 14 minutes. He played the fewest minutes off the bench, had a couple of offensive rebounds, had a steal, had a couple of assists, hit a 3. So like Jake just continues to chip in a little bit everywhere. And he's a big, one of the things I really like about Jake is he always generates extra possessions for the Lakers. The Lakers often might not always win the possession battle with Jake on the floor, but they at least hold their own. And again, you look at the 2 offensive rebounds, 1 steal, and 0 turnovers. At least from Jake's side of the aisle, he generated extra looks for LA in a way that they don't always do, or most of the group does not always do. Then Jared Vanderbilt was a DNP CD. So was Maxi Kleba, though he technically was deemed questionable going into the game. He was ruled available, but the Lakers did not use him tonight. In terms of stat of the night, has to be the season high 12 blocks. Lakers' previous season high was 10 blocks twice, but they had 12 blocks tonight. Now, we're going to go through these 3 takeaways pretty quickly. I know I always say that and then don't go through them pretty quickly. I think I've even said that I've acknowledged I don't go through them quickly, but tonight is going to be a little bit different. So takeaway number 1, bad habits reemerge. And what I mean by this is, as I said at the top, I felt the Lakers, from a process perspective, have been trending in the right direction in terms of the numbers with the big 3 have been better. And they've even been better, not just in, like, I'm not just basing this off of the Golden State and Sacramento games. Like, I think those games were nice, but like, I'm not really going to, as I said after both of them, I'm not like judging this team or extrapolating too much out of those games. In general, though, if you look at the breakdown, the big 3 has been trending in the positive direction from a plus minus perspective, from a net rating perspective. They finally jumped into the positive in both regards. The Lakers offense has been they've been a top 10 offense coming out of the All-Star break. They've been just below league average defensively. JJ said before the game he wants to be top 10 in offense and top 15 in defense. They've been in that vicinity, and talked about it a little bit of like, the offensive process, I think, has been better, where we've seen more nuances, more organization, more intentionality with flare screens, off-ball actions, stack actions, horns actions. Like, they've just been better offensively. And then the defense has been up and down, as just the case. That's just what this roster is. But especially like those blowouts, they've had some good defensive stretches, and they've been better than, they've not been a bottom 10 defense lately. So, that's been some progress. Tonight, though, I mean, the turnovers just with the big 3, those 3 combined for 17 of LA's 21 turnovers. I mean, 21 turnovers that would have been the stat of the night had LA lost, but it was a comedy of errors with those 3 tonight, where, I mean, typically when teams blitz and trap against the Lakers, or more recently, the Lakers have done a better job of attacking 4-on-3 and attacking with advantages. And tonight it was just really simple plays that Luka got pressured and got the ball poked loose a couple times. Had the one time Sadiq Bey came from behind him and stripped the ball. LeBron has struggled with pressure all season. Austin has struggled with pressure all season. And New Orleans' ability to wreak havoc defensively. Like Herb Jones, not even going to touch on him. We've done our scouting reports. Herb Jones has not played well offensively against the Lakers in, I feel like, 2 years now. But tonight he had 4 steals, and I thought you felt, a couple of offensive rebounds as well. I thought you felt his impact defensively. Did not feel it off offensively. 1 for 7, 0 for 4 on threes. But Herb had 4 steals. Murphy had a couple. Bay had a couple. Overall, the Pelicans had 12 steals, and a lot of those were directly off the big 3. And it was a combination of pressuring them and forcing them to retreat, also reading passing lanes, and then some general just mistimed spacing and timing on passes and cuts and kickouts, and just a really sloppy offensive performance from LA. They shot 47% overall. They got to the free throw line 26 times. They shot 81% there. But the turnovers killed them tonight and nearly cost them this game. And this was something we had not really seen from this group as much recently. They've coming out of the break, they actually led the NBA in turnover percentage in a positive way. So the Lakers had been taking care of the ball recently, but this was a regression of a negative regression tonight. And you were looking at it. So they had 20 turnovers against Sacramento, but that wasn't a serious basketball game. Last time they had 20 turnovers was what's funny is actually against Brooklyn on February 3rd, which was also not so they do kind of mess around in some of these games against lesser opponents, but I guess you'd have to go back to January 22nd for the last, they put that was the Clippers loss, where that's the last game they played against a serious opponent that they had 20 or more turnovers. But it had been a minute. You go back to the beginning of the season, and there are multiple games. Just looking at through December, looks like there was 5 games they had with 20 plus turnovers. So this was more a return to form in a negative sense from LA. Then I thought the defense tonight, until the last 7 minutes, they'd had a couple nice stretches at various points through the first 40 minutes or so. The defense was awful tonight for a lot of stretches, especially that first quarter defense was some of their worst recent defense they played. But then that third quarter was abysmal as well. And it was everywhere. It was guys. Even in the fourth quarter, there was a play right. I think they had just gotten the lead. I think it was around that 98-94 because they went on. I think they went on a 12-0. They went on a 14-0 run to extend it. They were down 94-86. They get it to 100-94. Then that's when Zion responds with a couple buckets, gets it to 198. But then they re-extend the lead. But there was a play with Jackson and Marcus where they miscommunicate. And Trey Murphy just walks into a wide open 3 at the top of the arc and he misses it. But from a process perspective, that was a bad outcome. That was it was a good result, but they botched the switch. They miscommunicated there and they left the best shooter on the floor wide open from 3. So there was way too much of this tonight with the low man not rotating, guys miscommunicating off the ball, guys not getting back in transition, guys just not rotating in the half court. It was a mess defensively tonight. And the turnovers, we've seen this group deal with it. There's just some nights, some matchups, they turn the ball over a lot, but they have been better over the past couple months, especially compared to the first couple months. The defense, though, tonight was the thing that was the most alarming to me, of just continues to be how low the Lakers floor is defensively, especially point of attack, the amount of times they were just blown by off the dribble. And look, part of it, the Lakers just had an athletic disadvantage defensively in basically every matchup. And this is a team that has Zion Williamson, who can get by just about anybody. They were much better down the final 7 minutes of this game. But from that sense, it did remind me of a lot of the Lakers wins this season, where it's one of these wins where you come away feeling you don't feel great about it, right? It was sort of an ugly win that against a lesser opponent that you would have liked to have seen them just take care of business against a little bit earlier. But that's really the stuff I'll nitpick with tonight's game, right? They got the win. at this point in the season, that's what matters. But like, you want to see, it felt like they had a big, they played two really bad teams and they crushed both of them. And then they had to step up in competition, not even to like a playoff level, to like New Orleans is hoping to be in the play-in, and they like barely eke this one out. So I just think that they're going to have to play much better Thursday in Denver if they want to win that game. And then a couple of rotation notes. Takeaway number 2, rotation notes is, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, Rui, and like this felt a little bit more like a playoff rotation tonight because Luka plays 38, Austin plays 37, LeBron played 33. I think he'll play more in a playoff context, but everyone else, it was like Marcus was at 30, DA was at 25. So DA ended up playing a little bit more than he has recently, but we saw like Rui had a rough game. His minutes got slashed. He was under 20. Jake, I guess he's sort of the 9th man now, which is the way that the rotation has worked out. His minutes got slashed to 14. And then I've noticed like, Luke has played a little bit less in some of their more competitive games. So he only played 21 tonight, same as he played against Phoenix. And then Jackson ended up playing a little bit more with, they'd been splitting the center rotation recently with the 3-headed rotation and then also some small ball, and no small ball tonight, no Maxey tonight, no Vando tonight, and Jackson ends up playing more. And then on that front, Vando is clearly, I don't even know if he's the 10th man anymore. He might be the 11th man. That's unclear. At least based on the last 3 games, he would be the 11th man. But no Vando tonight, second straight game, DNP CD, and then no Maxey, though it seems like the back soreness played some part in that. And then takeaway number 3 before we get into the Q&A, JJ addressed the viral Luka moment before the game. So for those who are unaware, there was a moment, it was about like a 12 or so second interaction between JJ and Luka. Luka's checking out of the Golden State game, and JJ goes, I think he goes to like a high five or sort of like to briefly talk to Luka, and Luka zooms past him, and he's clearly fuming about something. And then they kind of have a moment. They get into it a little bit. You see Kobe Buffkin and Jared Vanderbilt both step in on, to kind of calm Luka down. And they have a little back and forth, and that's it. And I was not surprised that this became a thing because it's that time of the year. It's that part of the NBA news cycle. But JJ said that he felt it was a normal interaction and that those types of tiffs or whatever you want to call it, happen between JJ and not just Luka, but JJ and other players on the team. And said it doesn't happen like every day or every game or every practice, but like there will be heated discussion. And as someone who has been covering the NBA since 2011, being in locker rooms, being at practices, and just seeing the inner workings of this stuff, like this stuff happens. Like I think coaches and players try to limit how much it happens publicly, which is why when it does happen, we get the overreaction and we get do Luka and JJ hate each other? Is JJ on the hot seat now? Does Luka want out of LA? And like people overreact in that way. But I don't, this is not a thing. I don't think this is a thing. If we just look at the history here, like JJ and Luka have been friends for over a half decade. Luka has done 3 NBA podcasts, player podcasts. JJ was the first one. They've had a really good relationship dating back to playing together in Dallas. But then since then, when JJ was in the media and then now as a head coach, and like, these are just 2 fiery dudes who run hot. And I think it's healthy to have this type of banter back and forth. And like, I actually think that's a good thing. And I also think like, I know not everyone feels this way, but I feel like there's been a notion from some people that like JJ doesn't run the locker room or JJ doesn't hold guys accountable. And it's like, this completely goes against that, where like he is clearly upset with Luka about something, holding him accountable, and then Luka's firing back with his feelings on it. And like, I think that's a healthy back and forth between a star player and a coach. And I think I'll say, like, there's a situation going on in Orlando right now with Paolo Banchero and Jamal Mosley. I think that one might be a little bit different here, and that might be treading toward some changes in Orlando at some point, but not this. I don't. I think this has much to do about nothing. And if it was a different player, I might feel, I might feel a little differently. But knowing the Luka JJ dynamic, I'm not concerned about this. And again, if anything, I actually like JJ calling Luka out about stuff, and Luka also feeling comfortable enough to call JJ back out and push back. And that's something JJ said as well, that he wants this to be a player-led situation at times, and he wants feedback from his players. So I think it was fun to do this Zapruder film on it. There was a lot to break down in that 12, 13 seconds, whatever, but I'm not overreacting to this, and I thought JJ put it in proper perspective. But with all that said, let's get into the super chats here and the Q&A. First one from Connor Phillips. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for being a member for 5 months. Ayton cost us 10 points per game just from dropping the ball. I don't have the official stat on that, but yeah, I mean, that feels a little high, but if you told me it's at least 4 to 6 points a game. I will say that. And he's got to be better with his hands. And I also think sometimes his foot, feels like sometimes he's processing it all kind of in trying to turn into the play. And he's got to catch, secure, and then also not bring the ball down, because that's been an issue for him. I think more so at times with the rebounds when he gets stripped, but sometimes even when he catches, brings it down. It's one of the first things you're taught as a big man in 4th, 5th grade. You do not bring the ball below your chin, or if you do, someone's going to run into your elbow. So yeah, I mean, he's got to be better with that. There's just no way around it. It's been really frustrating. Harry Chinani, thank you for the super chat. Don't agree with JJ playing Luka AR this many minutes. Need to keep big three fresh, and the rest of the players need more reps going to playoffs. Don't want big three playing more than 34 minutes. I agree with you. I've been on this since the beginning of the season. I have not agreed with how aggressively they've played the Stars. I think it's one thing if it's this was a close game that the Lakers clearly wanted to win, that they want to win every game. I mean, they want to win every game in general, but every game is going to have a greater magnitude down the stretch of the season with the West standings and the jockeying for playoff position. So I understand taking a certain approach down the stretch of the season here, but I think this has been it's funny because they kind of have two conflicting approaches at times where, and I guess this more so highlights how a coach approaches a situation versus how a medical staff and a front office approach a situation, because the Lakers, even go back to last season, but especially this season, have been so conservative with injuries and just timetables and timelines, and when a guy can actually return, and we'll hear 2 weeks and then it gets extended, and they've been very cautious with not wanting to overexert and rush guys back and making sure they're having the proper time to heal and rest and recover. But then in game, it's been almost the exact opposite, where JJ has played the starters and the Stars deep into fourth quarters when the Lakers are up by 20 points because he's afraid that the bench is going to blow the lead, or maybe he's trying to make up the point differential net rate. I don't know what he's doing in those situations, but there's been plenty of games where the Lakers have an emphatic lead going to the fourth quarter, and then Luka and LeBron's the one guy they'll be a little bit more cautious with just because he's 41. But Austin and Luka in particular, those guys have played deep into the fourth quarter just for, in my opinion, no legitimate reason several times this season. And games like a tonight where they end up 38-37, in previous games, it was they could have played 33-32 and you could have got away with it. Now, I will say, if they both play 34 minutes tonight, I think the Lakers lose this game. I do think if they found other pockets to play them less, I think the Lakers probably lose. And I think that says something about the team to a degree. But in general, I'm with you that I would like to reduce their minutes. Maybe my threshold's like 35, 36, just like a smidge higher than yours, but I don't think they should be playing 38 minutes in associate. Like I'm actually more open to it against okay, Denver on Thursday. If that's a close game and they need to play a certain amount of minutes, like I'm more cool with that. But a game like tonight, I think there needs to be a little bit more trust with the rotation. Now, again, I think you might have run the risk of losing the game if you cut their minutes with how the game was going. But as a general approach, I do agree that they should be in the low to mid 30s pretty much every night, with the exception being a close game against like a really good team that you want to test yourself. You want to push them the distance and see how they fare. Sarah Talks Ball, thank you for the super chat. How many early season clutch wins were due to slacking off against bad teams and getting it together? Maybe not a good clutch team. Also free Maxi. So yeah, yes, free Maxi. I am on that train with you. There is something to this. I dug into it a little bit early in the season. I haven't dug into it as much recently, though the Lakers have also dropped some clutch wins. I would say, I think around the time they were like 12-2 or 13-2, I think I did a quick breakdown, and it was like 7 of the 12 wins I would probably quantify as what you're saying, versus like 5 I would say were like solid wins. Again, I mean, like if we go earlier in the season, they had the San Antonio win, which was a huge win. I mean, might be their best win of the season, just straight up. Now, no Fox and Harper on the San Antonio side, no LeBron and Austin on the Lakers side. So both teams without 2 key players, but the Lakers gutted that one out, won that one in the clutch. They had a nice win over Phoenix in the clutch in mid-December. They had the couple of Philly wins, a couple, the Toronto win with the Rui game winner. So like they've had some nice clutch wins, but they've also, to your point, had games like tonight where they either trick away a lead and maybe they're up 12, 14, 15. It looks like they're going to coast to a win. They give up a big run. Now it's technically a clutch game and they end up pulling it out. Or more directly like tonight, where they're in a hole that they have to climb out of, and then it goes to clutch time and they win. So I off the top of my head, it feels like it's around 50-50 in terms of like beating solid teams in the clutch versus beating bad teams in situations that there just shouldn't have even been a clutch game. But it is worth noting that they have the best record in the clutch, but they've played the fewest clutch games in the NBA this season. And that just speaks to the up and down nature with this group, where they have a bunch of close wins and a bunch of blowout losses. So, and they now have been stacking up some blowout wins as well. But like the Lakers have been, it's like every game is either going down to the wire and the Lakers pull out a nail biter for the most part, or they're just getting completely ran off the floor. And there's been little in between. And that speaks to like the Lakers are very much, to me, arguably the most, like, I think they're a top 10 team in the NBA. I think they're probably 9th or 10th. But if we look at that top 10, they're like the most, I think there's the most variance between their highs and their lows. And like, they are like, JJ's kind of been taking this approach of like, people are underrating us because of our record and people always overreact to our losses. And like, I agree with it to an extent, but then you also look under the hood and you're like, okay, well, they just got into the positive in point differential net rating almost 60 games into the season. They have entering tonight, they have the biggest weakness on one side of the floor of any of the top 6 in the West in terms of like their defense is the worst of anything. If you look, I mean, Denver's right above them, but I've already said my piece on my feelings on Denver. So like that's a thing. And then they also have the worst record against above 500 teams and the worst record against the top 10 teams in the NBA. So they're just this like really difficult team to judge, because you could look at the injuries, you could look at the big 3 trending in the right direction, you could look at the offense trending in the right direction, and you can see the optimism in addition to already them banking a lot of wins and being a top 6 team. You could also look at a lot of the statistical markers that indicate Like there are other teams that have had similar injuries and have been much better despite those injuries. So they're just a tough team to judge. But I do agree with you that there is something here to some of the clutch stuff where it does feel like I would ballpark it like at least half of their clutch wins have been basically gutting it out against crappy teams. Jay, thank you for the super chat. Marcus with 7 stocks with an exclamation point. Dog, yes. Marcus has been playing really solid basketball lately. I think the shot, to me, the shot's been the biggest thing because like he's had games like this before in terms of the stocks, but looking at it, coming like post Philly game, if we look at just his 3-point percentage, 67%, 50%, 57, 11, 50, 0, didn't attempt one against Orlando, 40, 50, 60, 33% tonight. So, I mean, that, and then you even go to like mid-January. I mean, in January, he shot 38%, cooled off in February, which is 33%, but some of that was like the games he didn't shoot well, he attempted more. The games he shot well, it was on a little bit of a lower volume. So like the 1-for-9 performance against Dallas really skewed his 3-point shooting. You take that one out, he was an above average shooter in February, and then now shooting 5 for 11 in March, so just under 50% in March. He's been shooting the ball much better, and I think he's been making better decisions, and I just really like the way that he's playing lately, and I think he's trending in the right direction, and I'm glad the Lakers are starting him. Like that lineup, they're now 4-3 with that lineup. Starting, the net rating has been much better, and it was shaky there to start. We'll see. I mean, they got the upcoming stretch, Denver a couple times, Minnesota, Houston a couple times. We'll see how they fare, but for now, it's been solid. Then Jay, again, this team has a top 2 to 3 offense in the league. This team has top 2 to 3 offense in the league upside if they're to maximize their ceiling. If they get hot, things could get interesting. And then, in my opinion, for this team to hit whatever ceiling they have, Braun has to be the number 2 option over AR. Braun's ceiling is simply higher than AR's. So I mean, I agree with you. Like I in terms of the offensive upside, if we look at the top of the league from an offensive rating perspective, right now, far ahead of the rest of the league is Denver and Boston. They're tied at a 120.3 offensive rating. Third place is New York at 118.3. So a 2-point per 100 possession gap there between 2 and 3. That's a pretty big gap. So I mean, the Lakers are not going to catch those teams, but I would say like Denver and Boston are the only 2 teams Denver, I would put them in pen because they've maintained the top offense with Jokic, without Jokic, with Murray, without Murray, with Gordon, without, like they've had the most injuries of anybody in the top 6, or right there with OKC, and they maintained the league's best offense. So Denver's a machine. They're the league's best offense. I think Boston has become a machine with several things: the 3-point shooting, the offensive rebounding, the turnovers, ball security. They maximize the possession game and they launch an insane amount of threes. So I would say Denver and Boston to me are the 2 best offenses, the 2 offenses I trust, and Boston might be adding Jason Tatum into that. But once we get into the New York, Charlotte, Cleveland, OKC, Houston, San Antonio range, I see no reason why the Lakers can't be in that mix, and frankly could jump. I mean, I think they have a higher offensive ceiling than OKC, Houston, and San Antonio. They should have a higher offensive ceiling than Cleveland. Charlotte's been playing great. New York has been carried by their offense, though the defense has been solid at times. Where are they in? I mean, they're 7th in defense, so I'm maybe shortchanging them there. But yeah, I mean, I think the Lakers. I would say I would agree with you that I would say they probably have a top 3 offensive ceiling at this stage. In terms of Austin versus LeBron, it's interesting because it depends what goes into option or like what you deem as like by option. Are you simply talking score? Because typically when we say second option, that means like scorer, right? But I think there's more to this where if he's like number 2 in usage, which is also factoring in his playmaking, that's where I think, or, factoring it into a degree, like that's where I think I'm more open to that. Because if you just go by like scoring and shooting percentages and I think LeBron's only had 4 30-point games this season, if I'm not mistaken. I'm about to double check that right now. Austin's bigger scoring games have been bigger than LeBron's bigger scoring games this season. So LeBron's had 4 30-point games this year. His season high is 36. Austin has had 9 30-point games and 3 40-point games and 50-point game. His high is 51. That was in the beginning of the season. So I guess I would push back a little bit here in that like Austin has had the higher offensive ceiling as a scorer this season. And just again, from like a shooting percentage efficiency perspective, has been the better offensive player. Now you add in the passing though, and that's where I think this shifts for me, where LeBron is a better passer than Austin. And I think that much has been, I don't even have to like explain that. It's just, it is what it is. So I think factoring in LeBron's passing and him as a post-up weapon, I think that's where it brings it to maybe LeBron in totality is more of the option. But I actually think if we're just talking like purely bucket getting and creating their own shot, I think the numbers support Austin in that. Now, it's fallen off a cliff lately, and if he's running out of time to turn that ship around, and the Lakers need that, because I will say, like, if the Lakers are getting this version of Austin, they don't have that top 3 ceiling offensively, and they're going to lose in the first round. Like, they need Austin to, like, they don't have enough talent and enough depth compared to the rest of the top 6 in the West to withstand this current performance from Austin. Austin needs to be better. So but to your point though, I think there's something when LeBron's playing well, it feels like the Lakers, there's like this unquantifiable factor with LA when LeBron is dialed in and playing well, it just kind of gives everybody energy in a way that like, it's just not the same with Austin. But again, I think if we're just talking like pure bucket getting scoring, like Austin has been better on the season. Now, recently it's obviously been LeBron, but I still think LeBron's offensive ceiling has not been quite as high as you would think, and definitely not as high as it was last season. Jeffrey J. Cal, thank you for the super chat. Is Herb Jones still a top target? I'm not sure he's still a 3-and-D player with his poor 3-point shooting the past 2 years, as he isn't effective. I think I remain in like the 99th percentile of Herb Jones supporters, but to your point, it's undeniable. 31% last year in 20 games, 30% this year, or 29.5 going into tonight. So it'll actually drop in 39 games going into tonight, technically 40 after tonight. So, I mean, that's the concern here. I think, again, at least in the film I've watched on him, I mean, the defense, I think, speaks for itself. And I thought he had some nice moments against Luka tonight. I think he's had some nice moments against Luka. Statistically, he's been one of the best Luka defenders over the last few years. But the shot is unreliable, and that is a concern. Now, I think the defense is at a level that, like, I don't, again, I made this point on recent mailbag, but like, I think there's this notion that he's Vando. I don't think he's Vando. He's looked like Vando against the Lakers, so I'm not going to deny that. But if you watch more film on him and see some of his other performances, like, there's more there offensively in terms of running pick and rolls, going coast to coast in transition, attacking off cuts, beating big men off the dribble if they try to hide a big on him. Like, it's not just the Vando you pray that he hits a corner three and like maybe gets an offensive rebound putback. It's like, I mean, he's still averaging 9 points a game this season, despite it being a down year offensively. So I'm not going to like, I am concerned. Now, the point I've made before is that the Lakers are in a situation where like they just need to improve the roster. So maybe he's not the top target, but there are much worse alternatives than Herb Jones, in my opinion. And if the Lakers exhaust the top few options and they get down to the Herb part of the list, like I think he is someone who would help this team and would fit well next to Luka and Austin. And I think even like looking at New Orleans tonight, like they don't have a point guard, right? Like Jeremiah Fears is way more of a scorer than a playmaker. And like DeJounte Murray just returned, but DeJounte Murray is also more of a scorer than a playmaker. So a lot of their best offensive moments tonight were forcing turnovers, getting out in transition, Zion beating guys off the dribble, some mismatch hunting in the post with Sadiq Bey, and some high-level shot making from several of their guys. But it's not like Herb Jones is getting set up on a silver platter either, and I think he will get more of those opportunities next to Luka. So I think Luka would make, like, the comparison I made on the last mailbag I did was Derrick Jones Jr. I think he has, I think he's a better defender than Derrick Jones Jr. Derrick Jones Jr. is more athletic and kind of has more that like energy quality to him with like the putbacks and the cuts and the dunks and stuff. But I really like Herb Jones, and I think he's done everything he can to not impress the Lakers and to drive. Maybe he's trying to drive his trade price lower. He's trying to help the Lakers. I don't know, but it's not been the best impressions. But I think if you watch a larger sample size of him, you'll come away more impressed. Easy peasy. Thank you for the super chat. If you work down through the standings, what team would you stop and take the Lakers comfortably in a series? They're almost underdogs against all. I think I talked about this recently. I would take them over Golden State. I would take them over. I mean, anyone below the play-in, I would take them over. I would take them over Golden State and Portland. I think the Suns and Clippers would be too hard series for them if we just are taking the standings at face value, and in this hypothetical, they have home court advantage because like if it was a play-in, if they somehow get into the play-in, I think Phoenix and the Clippers could easily beat them in a one-game situation. And I think the season's really on the line if they're in the play-in, because we've seen it where their floor in just a single game can be just terrible. Like, I mean, they look like a bottom 10 team in the league some nights, but I would still pick them over Phoenix and the Clippers, but it's much more of like, I mean, Phoenix has had their number this season with or without. I mean, they just beat them without Booker, with the Lakers having their full big three, Booker and Brooks and Goodwin. Then, I mean, no Rui, but like he's not even playing well recently, or at least I think no Rui. Then the Clippers, I mean, like, yeah, I would still pick them over the Suns and Clippers, but I wouldn't. I would like bet my life on it if you know that's like the standard we're using here. But yeah, I mean, I think they'd be underdogs against the 5 teams above them easily, and so I know you're not arguing that, but I I'm just making that point. But yeah, I mean, I think they like if they played the Blazers in a series, I think they sweep them, or maybe it's like Portland gets lucky one game, or Lakers have a 20 turnover game. Golden State, it's not been the easiest matchup for them from like a stylistic perspective, but I guess I want to know is Steph playing? Is Porzingis playing? Like Jimmy's out the rest of the way. So I hear your point though. Like I don't think they would not be like heavy favorites against Phoenix or the Clippers. And I'm sure, ESPN always does the series predictions where they'll get like 10 to 15 writers for like each series and have them do the prediction at the end. I think if there was like 15 writers, I think it would probably be 9 or 10 picking the Lakers and another 5 or 6 picking like the Suns and the Clippers. So I don't think they'd be like unanimous heavy favorites against those teams necessarily. Chuck Dangler, aka Fang Charlie, thank you for the super chat. Sup, Brate. Email sent as soon as I saw the Pels injury report. I thought this wouldn't be easy. W's a W. You didn't go today. Next away game when? Yeah, I ended up audibling at the last second because I got asked to do the Ryan Russillo show in the morning. So I just, I mean, if I went to the game, I probably would have been going live right now, whereas I've now been live for an hour and I'm going to be wrapping up soon. So I don't like missing games, but if I'm going to miss a game, I usually try to miss like a lottery level team, and ended up being a fun game, and I was bummed I wasn't there. But yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I now get to make my own schedule. And if I was working for The Athletic, I would have been at the game, and I just basically would have slept like 4 hours tonight. But instead, I will be wrapping soon and then get to editing the audio version, get that up, and then try to get some rest before the morning. Not sure on next away game. I'm looking into Houston and Miami, if not potentially OKC or Golden State later in the season. I mean, at a minimum, it'll be probably game 1 of the playoffs if the Lakers are on the road. But I'm going to try to go to at least a game or two before the season wraps. Civic Citizen, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for being a member for 4 months. What you want to see LA do well to Nugs? DA got crunk. Got crunk juice. I would. So, I mean, I think it starts with how much can they. I'm interested in the Jokic part of the matchup. Like, I will note that they're not going to have Gordon and Watson, and I think those are two. I mean, that's basically the LeBron and Luka matchup. I think Watson would start on Luka. He had some decent moments against Luka in that matchup, but Luka obviously got the better of him overall. And then Gordon is like their only guy with a prayer of hanging with LeBron physically. So, and I think he's done like a decent job against LeBron in a lot of the Nuggets matchups. So without those two, I actually think the Lakers like should win the game, and I don't think they're going to be favored, but Denver's without a couple of starters. They have not been playing well lately. They will probably get up for this game, and maybe the mojo will come back and all the shots will fall. And the Lakers have seen that before. But I'm interested to see how they fare against Jokic in both offensively and defensively. Are they able to punish him similar to some of the success that they had against the Nuggets later in the season last year? Can they bring him into the pick and roll consistently? And Denver will mix in different things, but they will do a lot of hedging and trapping. And if you're going to give the Lakers the 4-on-3 situations, the Lakers are going to make you pay. So I'm interested to see how much they can exploit that and really make that just clear that the Nuggets have a matchup problem against Luka specifically, because I assume Christian Brown's going to be his main. They'll probably put Brown. Well, I'm interested to see who they start and what that all looks like. But I guess it'll be Cam Johnson on LeBron. Then I guess Murray on Austin and Brown on Luka. And then I wonder if they went with Jokic and Valanciunas. They've been mixing up the starting lineup lately. They've been going with Strother a lot. Spencer Jones, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Spencer Jones makes his return against the Lakers, because that's just how these things go. And Cam Johnson missed the last game. So, I mean, if they'll start to get right a little bit. I mean, if Cam Johnson and Spencer Jones are out, then I think the Lakers should be the clear favorites in this matchup, because like the Nuggets just don't have the bodies on the wing outside of the two Browns, Christian Brown and Bruce Brown, to really hang. So Strother's been starting. if I were them, the ideal realistic starting lineup would be against the Lakers would be Jokic, Cam Johnson, Spencer Jones, Christian Brown, Murray, and then I would probably go Murray on Austin, or maybe Murray on Smart, Brown on Luka, Jones on Austin, and Johnson on LeBron. But then you could switch, you'll switch 2 through 4, and then Jokic obviously on DA. So I would like to see the Lakers offense exploit Jokic defensively, and then defensively, I want to see what it looks like against him, just because they haven't faced him yet, this season. And I thought Denver ultimately ran out of gas in that. They had the brutal fourth quarter against the Lakers where the offense was good for 3 quarters. Then fourth quarter, they struggled. Lakers locked them down. I think it's a little bit different with the big guy down there. So they had a pretty good defensive game plan last year remember the game, Vando was fouling him all over the floor, and Vando and Rui and even LeBron were preventing, basically face guarding him and preventing him from getting the ball. So, ultimately I'd like to see a win, and I think that would be a statement win. But I specifically want to see how the Jokic part of this all impacts the matchup on both sides. Kane Carter, going to go about 5 more minutes here. Kane Carter, hey Jovan, since the Lakers wanted expirings, why couldn't they move Rui in a pick swap for Grimes and Oubre? See if you can get a second or 2 in return. It would have been worth it than DA for Sharp swap. Philly would not do that. Grimes just has more value than Rui. I know you're offering the pick swap, but the pick swap is assuming that the Lakers are going to be worse than the Sixers at some point in the future, which isn't necessarily a guarantee. And the Sixers have been trying to go for it. So you're talking about, I know they've been switching up the starting group, but Oubre and Grimes have both started games for them. Oubre was a starter earlier in the season. They just got destroyed tonight by San Antonio. San Antonio's frightening. They are the sleeping giant in the West right now. Oubre was out right now, but Grimes started. They were depleted. No Embiid, but still, I just think this comes down to that's not enough incentive for Philly. And they would not have gotten. I don't think. I think the Lakers would have had to attach more on this. I don't think they would have got a second back. And then, DA for Sharp, they just were not going to do that. Although I do like Sharp. Jay says, Jovan going about 5 more minutes here. We'll proceed to go another 20 to 30 minutes. Crying emoji goat. I will be wrapping shortly. I'm 2 to 3 more minutes. We've done, Kane Carter, come on, Jovan. Imagine Maxey, VJ, PG, Rui, and Embiid. You told me Rob couldn't commit. I'll say this. I think Quentin Grimes is going to get a bigger contract than Rui this summer. So just inherently, I think Grimes is perceived to be a better player and a more impactful player. Then you're also asking for Oubre on top of that. And then you're also asking for second. I just don't think that would make sense from the Philly side. Matt Voyer, Jovan, how far can the Lakers go this year? It seems they're too slow, unathletic to compete with the OKC, Spurs, Denver. So I think it's really going to come down to the matchups and what it's looking like right now. It's looking like OKC is going to be the 1 seed and San Antonio is going to be the 2 seed, which means that as long as the Lakers can avoid the play-in, which I think they can, and that they have a little bit of a cushion there with a couple fewer losses than the Suns. They're going to play either Denver, Minnesota, or Houston in round 1. They're going to play one of those 3 and then be set up against OKC or San Antonio in round 2 if they play them, if they advance. It's weird because I think so if we just look at Denver, Houston, Minnesota, to me, Denver, peak Denver is easily the best of those three, assuming they could get healthy at some point, which there's no assumption you just can't make that assumption. But in theory, if Denver gets healthy, I think they're clearly the best of those teams. At the same time, they are the weakest defensively of those three teams. And I think that is something that if we think about the Lakers' path to winning a series, they have to be crushing it offensively. I don't think like the zone stuff, I'll be interested to see how much of it they use in the playoffs, how successful it is. I think some of the gimmicky stuff that the Lakers have done defensively is not ultimately going to translate as well. And like they need to defend at a certain level. Like they can't be terrible defensively. But if we are having this conversation 2 months from now, it's May 3rd and the Lakers are in the second round of the playoffs, I think it's because their offense was incredible against a Denver, a Minnesota, or a Houston. So Denver to me is the most, like they might actually be the most, have the highest variance of those three, which is kind of wild because Houston and Minnesota both have their own variance issues. But Denver is just like, if Denver's not healthy, I think they're beatable. And then also with some of the defensive concerns, even though they've been pretty good defensively when healthy, that would give me some confidence with the Lakers' ability to exploit that. However, the inverse is I think Minnesota and Houston have lower ceilings, and they both have now had extended stretches of being around 500, though so have the Lakers, so have the Nuggets. But I have less confidence in Minnesota and Houston's offensive performances and ability to close out games. They both this season have struggled in crunch time, have blown leads, have blown games in the clutch. And Denver's actually been under 500 in the clutch as well. But I think if we're like, if I'm thinking about how they're and look, and the Minnesota thing is still fresh in my mind, so I'm not going to like gloss past that. But if we're thinking about like the Jokic Murray 2-man game versus Ant and Randall versus KD and Şengün, for me, I still am the most afraid of the Jokic Murray 2-man game in a clutch situation and like just their continuity and their track record together. But it's close. I think you could put those three teams in any order. I would probably put them. I'd probably want to play Houston the most, but the Lakers are about to play Houston twice, and we'll see if I'm completely wrong. And like Houston whooped their ass earlier in the season, so I could be wrong on that. I just think the Steven Adams loss coupled with their recent scatter shot play, we'll say, I think like Houston and Minnesota are relatively similar in sort of like their physical makeup. They're both athletic, tough, nasty physical teams that get after it on both sides of the ball. I just trust, like Minnesota's been to two Eastern Conference Finals, maybe in the future if they get moved to the East. Two Western Conference Finals, back-to-back years. Houston has yet to win a playoff series together. It's a newer situation. And then Denver the core has been together now for multiple years. They've won a championship. I think I go Denver, Minnesota, Houston in terms of teams I wouldn't want to play. So I guess the inverse is Houston, Minnesota, Denver. But you could tell me any order, and I'm not going to really disagree with you because you can make a case that Houston and Minnesota pry on the Lakers' physical disadvantages even more because they're quicker, they're more athletic. Like Denver is kind of like a better version of LA. They're better offensively. They're like a great offense that's like shaky defensively, but they're better than LA on both sides of the ball. It's just a matter of can they get healthy. Keon Park says Rudy Gobert will destroy DA. Well, that's what you have Jackson Hayes for. Although he got destroyed too. Sarah Talks Ball says Gordon and Watson are both supposed to be back soon, so I don't want to go up against them. Yeah, I don't think they'll be back Thursday, but I think they'll be back for the second matchup, which will be a nice it'd be two different tests, right? Can they beat the like depleted version of Denver, and then can they beat the full strength Denver? Sarah Talks Ball, I think Rockets are best first round matchup. I agree. But to be clear, like I don't think they're an easy first round. I'm not saying like the Lakers are gonna sweep them or beat them in 5. I think that's a 6 or 7 game series. I just think Houston is the least proven of those three, and their late game. I mean, I don't even know like the KD stuff, whatever, but like their late game offense is shaky. But in terms of, I guess I never answered the question. I think right now the Lakers, I would say, I think their ceiling for me is round 2. I have a tough time seeing with how inconsistent they've been and how underwhelming they've been against good teams. Now, look, if we're talking in a month and they've rattled off, they beat Denver once or twice, they beat Houston once, they beat New York, they rattle off several statement wins, they'll suck me back in, they'll rope me back in, and I'll have a different tune on here. But at this point, I need to see it to believe it. I'm not just going to have like faith that they're going to figure this out when they have shown time and time again. It's like 2 steps forward, a step back, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Like it's just been all over the place all season. And I need to see them have more success against good teams, because up to this point, it's been a pretty concerning track record against the better teams in the league. So I would say, I think with the right matchup and with, honestly, I think like Luka just being the best player in the series and just dominating the series, I think they can win a round. But when it comes to round 2, I think some of the warts. I also wonder, like, I think JJ is going to have to probably go with a tighter rotation, shorter bench, and like I also wonder the physical, some of the group making it like into the second round in one piece, and also having enough energy. I think that's like one of the big things JJ talked about going to training camp was like championship conditioning. I don't think this group has championship conditioning. I think they're often like sucking wind and losing the transition battle. They've been better selectively like leaking out for transition, but they're not like winning it with their speed or stamina for the most part. So that's something to monitor. All right. I'm going to wrap here though. I ended up going almost 10 minutes over. Appreciate you guys. I will be back. I'll be back tomorrow actually at 12 p.m. Pacific time, and we'll be answering a lot of your offseason questions. Going to have Eric Pincus of Bleacher Report on the show. We're going to be doing a deep dive on the Lakers cap space, the different options, the different paths they have to build out the roster over the summer, and what's feasible. What can they realistically do? All right, we got to Keon Park with the super chat. I will answer this one quickly. Sorry, but winning top teams once or twice in the regular season, not really giving hope. Like we can win first 2 games and lose 4. I just hope no 4-0. I hear like, to be clear, I'm not saying if the Lakers win a couple of these games, I think they're going to like make the finals or, it turns the season around. It's just, they've not proven, if you actually dissect their performance against a lot of these teams, like 3 of their 5 wins against top 10 teams came in the first week and a half, 2 weeks of the season, twice against Minnesota, once against San Antonio. Since then, they beat Denver without Jokic, and then they beat, why am I blanking? They beat, who else did they beat? They beat the Suns. I mean, the Suns are technically, if you remove the Lakers, like a top 10 team. Well, they are a top 10 team in point differential. So by that measure, the Lakers have they're 5-12 in those matchups, and 3 of the 5 wins came in the first 2 weeks of the season when the Lakers, like, we've just not seen that version of LA since then. So I'm with you in terms of like, it's not going to change my outlook on the season necessarily, but it will give me more confidence in a potential playoff matchup. If they go 0-5, 0-6 in this stretch against good teams, then obviously like the season's over. The writing's on the wall, in my opinion. But I don't think that's going to happen. But appreciate you guys. And I will talk to you all tomorrow. Again, 12 p.m. Pacific time. We'll be going live with Eric Pincus, talking through the cap for about 35, 40 minutes, then taking your questions for the final 20 to 30 minutes or so. But for those watching on YouTube, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on channel notifications, and like and comment on this video. For those listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast platform of choice, please be sure to follow, download, and leave a 5-star review. I'll be back tomorrow. I will talk to you all then. Shout out to the Late Night Gang.